just right before we start, okay, we got the recording going. I just wanted to make sure we were recording the session. So if anybody's interested, we have recordings from all of our previous sessions on our website, and we'll link that in the chat. Somehow I'm not the host, but that's okay. I think we will be good to go.
Awesome. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. So if you've downloaded Adobe Fresco, if you've worked with us before, you know what Adobe Fresco is. So it's this, the green FR that's there. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to take a photo inside of Adobe Fresco, and then we're going to use that photo, adjust the opacity so that we have a background image to work from, and then we'll start to work with recognizing shapes inside that image and kind of build out this layering system so that we know how to do a pencil sketch and ink, coloring that ink, and then we can go in and add textures from there. So again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We do have people on here that can lend a hand. But with that, we're just going to go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and choose square, which is just this top one. So it's 2100 pixels by 2100 pixels instead of the HD. And the only reason I'm doing this is because this will just be easier if you guys do want to make it a profile picture. A lot of social media uses that perfect square. It'll just be easier all around whenever you try to post it. Okay, so again, if anybody does have any questions about this sidebar here, our UI, which is user interface, feel free to stop me at any time, but I'm just gonna start to kind of work through this slowly. We'll get our picture taken, and then we will start to build out our layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this little camera icon, which is right above our color dial here. So I'm gonna select that, and you're gonna see one that says camera. And I'm gonna go ahead and select camera. And don't mind my extremely dirty keyboard. I need to clean. Don't judge me. And now we're just gonna go ahead and take a picture of ourselves. Make a funny face if you want to. I will, because that's who I am. And we'll go ahead and use that photo. Again, don't mind the trash behind me. I swear it's all a lie. It's actually a mirage. So once you have that photo, I hit done. It's going to drop it into its own layer right on top of that canvas. With this, before you hit done in the top right corner, you can adjust this however you want to. So I'm just gonna make my head, I'm not gonna worry about my shoulders, but the literal shape of my head, probably center frame. I'm gonna shrink this down just a hair. My hair is a little poofy today, a little wavy. So that's good. Probably right about there.
That's a really good shot of you, by the way.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just change this to all of my profile pictures on everything.
You should just save this as is.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit done in the top right corner here. And what that's gonna do is just drop that layer right into our project. And then we'll be able to start to build our layers on top of that. All right. So I'll just give everybody a little bit of time here to get your picture in. If people want to give a thumbs up or just drop in the chat to make sure you're good, or if you've already done it, then that's great, and I'll start to move ahead. But I want to make sure that everybody does have a reference photo before we move forward. So if anyone wants to keep an eye, actually, I should probably open up chat too, just to be safe, just so I can keep an eye.
So I noticed that the photo extends outside of your canvas at the bottom. Will that just disappear eventually?
Yes, so that will disappear upon exporting. So you can think of that as just digital space outside of the canvas where we're painting. It'll all go away. And actually in the end, we won't even have the photo on the screen. So we're just using it as a reference. All right. And I'm assuming everybody's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start to work forward here a little bit. And what we're gonna do is we're going to drop the opacity of this initial layer so that we can start to draw over it and create our shapes. So what I'm gonna do in the top right corner here, I'm gonna hit this little icon that is our layer properties. And then I'm going to adjust the opacity of this layer. And if you just drag this down, you'll notice that my image gets a little bit fainter and fainter, okay? So I'm just gonna keep it at a point where I can still see the details, but I'll be able to see my pencil work on top of that once I get it on there, all right? So I adjust mine to about 34%. Again, everybody, it could be potentially different. So if you're having trouble seeing it, you can bump that up. We just want to make sure that we can see our pencil lines once we start to work. And you can adjust this later down the line too. It's not a problem. All right. Cool. So I'm going to adjust mine to that. Actually, adjust it up a hair to 53. 52 is fine too. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop in another layer on top of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this little plus sign that's right above our eyeball on the right side. And that's going to make a layer right above our image layer. So now your layer system should look like this on the left side. So we have our background. We do have a blank layer here that was initial. Part of that, we don't need to worry about that one. We have our image layer, and then this is going to be our initial rough sketch layer, okay? So what you're gonna start to notice is how we're gonna build out this process. And we're gonna go through terms of iterations with actually illustrating this out. So I'm gonna go over here to our left side. I'm just gonna leave it on black for our color, and I'm gonna click on our pixel brushes, and I'm gonna go down here to sketching. I'm gonna click on sketching, and I'm just gonna use that pencil brush, which is the 6-point pencil brush, which is right here in sketching, okay? So I'll go ahead and hit that. Looks like we got a new tutorial going on here too. So pencil brush. 6 is probably fine. And I'm just looking down here below. These are your settings for your actual brush itself. And so if you wanted to just adjust this, you're more than welcome to give it a shot, see what it looks like. And again, I am drawing on the layer right above my image layer. And since I made these marks, in case you guys didn't remember, 2-finger touch on the screen will undo. Or if you need to undo up here in the top right corner, there is a little back arrow, and that works as undo as well, okay? So once we have our pencil brush here, and we're all ready to set our lines down, I'm gonna make sure that I'm selected on that top layer. And this is where we can start to get into the nitty-gritty. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to zoom in on my face, in case this wasn't uncomfortable for you enough. And what I'm going to do here is just to make sure that I can see this a little bit better. So I'm judging my decision on the opacity level. So I'm gonna bump that up. I'm gonna jump back to my other layer. And now with this, I can go in with my pencil and I can start to trace out our shapes here. And so I'm just looking at where my eyeball is, where my eyebrows are. And I'm not looking into getting into the real heavy details, but I'm looking at just the overall shape of my face. So I'm not going in, I'm not doing all the heavy shadows, but I'm looking at simplicity here. And this might be a little bit of a struggle for some people. You want to get into those nitty-gritty details, but try to simplify the best you can. And so I'm just trying to follow these lines, and we're going to basically start to see that face appear as we continue. So I'm just going to follow my head here. I'm going to go down around my chin. And because I'm the creator here, I can clean up my double chin, which is perfect. And again, this is my workflow, so I hope I'm not driving people crazy by rotating my canvas. It's just easier on my hand. You may find it similar too with yours, as I'm pinching and rotating to meet the angle of my hand so that I can have more natural flow with my line work. Instead of keeping this straight on and coming in here with the angles, it gets a little uncomfortable. So you can actually rotate that and it'll work well with the angle of your hand and how you want that line to go. It makes it a little more comfortable. So that's a pro tip. All right. And I'm just gonna grab my ears here. And then I need to shave. And again, I'm going for simplicity. So I'm just following these lines slightly, and I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty details of things. And I'm finding these dark lines too. Wherever there are darks, that's where you want to kind of drop those lines in. And again, this does take some practice with kind of recognizing those shapes. So if I'm looking here at this eyeball, basically I'm following this dark line, that's my eyelid, and then I'm looking at the light line of my actual eyeball, and then the dark line of my iris. And then that's it. That's all I really need to do in terms of this. And I can actually come in here and kind of mirror that over on that side, okay? And now because I made that line, I'm gonna go in here and erase this one.
I have teeth in mind because I didn't stick my tongue out like you did. Should I?
Sure, so in terms of teeth, what I would recommend, and actually, that is perfect. Let me, I'm gonna go ahead, just for the sake of this, let me grab another photo of myself. So we'll go to camera. Let me spin this around. Perfect. Love it, love it. Actually hate it. This and this. We'll adjust this back up. And again, I'm only doing this really quickly so that I can give you guys an example of what teeth can potentially look like and how we can draw them. So again, I'm looking at the dark lines here and here. I would follow my upper lip, and then I'm basically gonna follow my gum line. And once you follow the gum line, you'll notice that just that alone will give you enough definition within the teeth. If you want to go in here, you're more than welcome to. But the less detail in the teeth is going to make it look a little more natural.
I'm enjoying ignoring the lines around my eyes. Like those aren't there.
They're not even there.
Not even.
All right. So that's kind of a quick tutorial on how to do teeth. Sometimes what I like to do too is you can add in these like little X's, which will also kind of add a little more of a cartoon flair to it. And if I drop this out, you can kind of see how we're going to start to create our image. All right. So I'm just going to hide those layers. We'll jump back to where we were. And again, as people work through this, you'll start to figure out those shapes and what that, what I mean when I talk about simplifying. You'll slowly catch on. Again, I'm not looking for precision, and you guys shouldn't either. So feel free to get kind of loose with your pencil marks and have fun. And make my forehead lines that I love so very much. All right. Cool. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about here is how to illustrate hair. And hair in itself is really a challenge, not only in kind of a cartoon realm, but also in kind of if you're doing more photorealistic stuff. But what I like to do is I like to find the natural flow or point of where the hair is coming from. So if I look here, my hair is flowing from this kind of point right here on the right side, left side of my head. But it would be right in the picture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically see the natural line flow of that hair, and I'm just going to follow it. So I'm looking at how the wave of my hair comes out. And again, I'm not looking for precision here, but I'm recognizing the shape that kind of presents itself. And then I'm going to just fill in those lines and fill it out a little bit more. And over here, we have less kind of lines to work with. So I'm kind of just filling that in with quicker lines, smaller jaggedy lines for the hairline that's shorter. And how's everybody doing? Am I moving too quickly? We got thumbs up. Tracy's showing it off.
Oh, we have a question about glasses.
Glasses. Yeah, so glasses are a little bit tricky. So there, I definitely trace it out the best you can. When it comes to the actual lens itself, you don't need to trace anything. Just trace the frame out. Whenever we get into coloring, I can show you guys how we can adjust colors for the lenses to make it look like it's a little more glassy. All right.
And what about long hair? So I'm trying to trace my hair, and there was a question too from Erica.
Sure.
Like, how do you stop your hand from like, how do you have a technique for creating like a smooth?
So for longer hair, if you guys want to, another way to adjust some of the line work in this, if we adjust our smoothing up, that'll give you kind of a quicker, more natural flow of line. And I'm totally giving myself a mullet right now. I don't even care. So I'm gonna just go ahead and turn this off. So hypothetically speaking, if I wanted to come in here and add long hair in the back, or if I had long hair, I would just find that outer line around your face. So I'm just gonna look at you, Nicole, and if I just follow this down, and I'm just gonna look at how your hair is kind of sitting on your shoulders, and then any dark lines that are in there, again, you guys don't have to worry about the details.
Are you creating a hybrid of us right now?
I am. We just type hole. Nyler. I hope this is helpful. I look like I just, I'm ready to go.
I'm finding this very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Hopefully that answers some questions too about long hair and how to illustrate.
But it opens up many more questions.
Yes, it really does. Okay. Yes, long hair is hard, Erica. It gets a little more tricky whenever the hair starts to flow and move around. All I can recommend is get that basic shape down, and then we'll start to work with color and highlighting. So that'll be a little more helpful in the long run. All right, I'm gonna undo my awesome Nyler mullet here. Maybe someday. I'll just let it just go. Just gonna let it go.
I think it'd be a good look.
All right. So you should be left with something that looks a little bit like this. And what I did here is I made sure that I illustrated on a different layer. And if I make this one visible and invisible, this is my image layer. Now we have the basis of our sketch. So we have the basis of our image. This is what it's going to look like. And if you notice any details that are missing, feel free to turn that image back on. I just noticed that I didn't draw out my upper lip. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw that out. And I'm also going to just put in kind of a reference line here for my nose. It's going to make it a little more easier. And so what I did is I followed the arch of my nose down, and then right at the base of my nose here, if you think of this as kind of a ball, and then two other balls on the left and right side, you'll be able to see how that anatomically works. So that is a little cheat sheet for you for drawing noses.
You might have mentioned this, but for your eyes, I'm looking straight at the camera. So do I want to trace my pupil and iris?
That's completely up to you if you want to. Basically what we're gonna do for this sketch is we're laying down the line work for what we're going to ink right after this. And we're gonna start to create those iterations. So whatever you use and put down as pencil is going to be your reference, just like the photo was for this sketch. The pencil will be the reference for our ink sketch.
Cool.
So we're just trying to simplify it down as much as possible. And I'm just gonna go in here and kill some of these other lines around my beard. And cool. I need to keep an eye on the time, make sure we're not gonna run out of time here. All right, we are at 3:26. Excellent. All right, we're gonna keep on trucking. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my photo layer. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in another layer right above that one. So I'm gonna click on my sketch layer here, which is this one. And I'm going to go ahead and hit this little plus sign. It's going to add in another one. And for the sake of this, don't mind me, I'm just going to go ahead and delete these layers just so I can keep my interface clean here for you guys. Cool. And so for this one, I'm going to do the exact same process. So I'm going to go up. I have that layer selected, which is my sketch layer. And I'm going to go up here to my layer properties in the top right corner, which is our pixel layer. And I'm going to drop the opacity down, same way we were working before. And then I'm going to go up and I'm going to select a different brush this time. So we're going to go back out of sketching. And we're going to go into, I believe basic is what I want. And we're going to select hard round size flow. And I'm just going to test this out quick to make sure this is what we want. And I need to make sure I'm selected on the other layer. Yeah, that'll work perfectly. So I went in here. You guys were probably in the sketching brushes. I just went up to basic. And we're going to go to hard round size flow. Okay. And once we have that selected, we're going to start to trace over that line work that we just did. So I'm going to go in here. I'm actually going to expand this. Yeah, I'm just going to, so I clicked this other little button up here in the top right. That'll hide your layers so you have a little more freedom to work. But make sure that you're selected on the layer that we just created, which is above. So that you want to make sure that you're illustrating on a completely new layer above our sketch layer. Okay. So I'll leave that up just for the sake so people can see. And what I'm going to do here, and this is where you may run into some struggle. Getting that line work down does take practice. Do your best with it for clean inking. But we're just going to follow the lines that we just made. And if you're running into any issues, you can come in here to smoothing. And if you bump up smoothing, it'll actually create your lines a little more clean. So I'm just going to go ahead. Oops. I'm going to adjust the scale down on this too. There we go. Again, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. I do have it open, so I'm keeping an eye on it. So what we're doing here is we are just inking that sketch that we previously created. And this is a pretty common process for a lot of illustrators and artists. Using a reference photo, creating that basic sketch first. So you're doing a rough design, and then you're going to go back in and do iterative design to keep cleaning it up, making it better, making subtle changes, however you want it to look. You can do that through the different iterations. And again, like I said, this does take practice for inking. I've been inking a lot of artwork for a very, very long time. So if you're struggling with this, as understandable, there is a little bit of a learning curve and when it comes to inking.
Do you use more pressure when you first put your pen down to do the?
So I'm keeping a pretty natural pressure through the whole thing. I know it's a little bit tapered. That's just the nature of the brush. If you do want to, lighter is obviously going to give you a thinner line. I'm kind of letting the weight of my hand kind of do its own thing. But if you wanted to, you could adjust this down even further, the size of your brush. And now if I just push, it's not going to get any bigger than that initial size. So if you really have a heavy hand and your brush is up here, you're going to get real thick lines. But you can adjust this down, and then it'll be a little bit easier to do that. All right. So I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, with my sketch here, I'm following the lines, but notice I'm not keeping it completely identical. I'm noticing little things that I want to change, and I'm kind of changing them on the fly. And you guys are more than welcome to do this as well. So if you notice, you know, you liked one thing, or you want to change one thing with the with like your eyebrow or with your eye, or you want to have a piece of hair kind of fall down in front of your face, you can do that. Again, I'm using this as a reference for my ink, and my ink is going to be my final outline. And then we're going to start to talk about color, and we're going to keep things pretty monochromatic. And what I mean by monochromatic is one color, but we're going to utilize different shades of that one color.
I'm really loving my undo button right now.
Yes, undo is a beautiful thing. I need a real life undo button.
That would be amazing. You can make a lot of money on that.
All right. Again, I want to keep an eye on the time. Cool, we're at 3:32. So we're doing good. Excellent. Just about there. How's everybody else doing? Checking in. Some people are probably like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. It's crazy.
I'm just struggling with my mouth.
What I would say, if there is a shape that you're struggling with, kind of take a look at it and think of something else that maybe looks similar. So I would say, like, my eyes are almond shaped, so you can kind of superimpose that to the same thing. So kind of recognize and create similarities between what you're looking at and maybe something that you can recognize and draw that shape out visually. It'll create kind of a more natural recognition between the visual that you're seeing on the photo and then what you're trying to draw. And picking apart different images. So like in terms of trying to figure out the most simplistic way to explain this. Say a light bulb shape. So if I were to come in here and I create a circle, I know that a light bulb has these kind of tapered sides that come down. But if I were to just create a square, yes, that's a square. Then I can, again, iterate that shape down. So it becomes more simplistic the more that you start to work and recognize things. And you can use simplistic shapes to build up more advanced shapes to meet your own needs. So kind of use that also whenever you're recognizing the shapes within your own image. I was once told that my hair looks like an ice cream cone, which I will carry that with me forever.
Like a DQ? So
yep, totally.
I live near the Dairy Queen, and you would not believe the lines.
Oh, yes.
For the drive-through. They stretch down the street.
Yeah, that's everybody needs that ice cream fix, though. I'm guilty. I need it. And again, do not get discouraged if you are struggling with this inking. It takes time and practice to kind of get that balanced hand of the line work and getting it nice and clean.
And it's an interesting texture, like, to draw on. It's slippery texture, the tablet surface.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different feel.
It is for sure. It took me a while to get used to it, but I know exactly what you mean. Cool. And so you should have something that potentially looks similar to this. Again, I'm just taking a look here. Gonna add in some smaller details. I'm a tired person all the time. And we'll just connect some of this stuff. I think we're getting there. We're getting there. Cool. All right. So again, we're working with iterations. And so our goal was to get to this black and white ink, our nice clean lines. I'm noticing little things, and I'm a perfectionist, so I'm just going to keep on adjusting them. So we should have a nice clean outline here. I'm just going to make our pencil sketch invisible and should be left with something like this. I suck less than I thought I would. Excellent, Erica.
I'm still working on my hair, but here's slow. Sorry, Penn State.
Yes.
So far. Can you see it?
Excellent. Right on. Good. That makes me happy. It makes me excited that people are getting it. You're doing it.
We're doing it.
All right. So just for the sake of time, while you guys are still working through inking, whatever you have so far, we'll give you a couple more minutes to finish up your inking. If anybody has any questions about specific things, or if they need help with something, I will do my best to like ghost through the computer screen and guide your hand, but I think that's impossible.
So Tyler,
Yes.
you were going to talk about the teeth again. I feel like mine turned into some spikes. Can we use that?
Excellent. Sure thing. So let me see here. So if we go back and take a look at teeth, let me grab another photo. I know I deleted mine. Bummer. Let me.
I mean, I can just share mine.
Yeah, let's try. Can you? I'm a little nervous to let someone else try to share because the second it happens, everything is just gonna crash and burn. But
Oh no, I meant like.
oh, that way. Here, yeah. Let me take a look. I'm getting super close to my screen so I can see.
Can you see it?
Yes. Okay.
Can we fix it?
So let me just go here into I'm gonna grab my pencil again. So you're working with something, let me add another layer here. Something like this. So what I would do to kind of make it look a little more natural, and I understand, so it kind of looks like your gums are your teeth. So you have like little shark teeth.
Yeah.
So at the base, so if you're smiling, that's where we can, yes, I know I said that you don't want to add in too much detail, but bring in that bottom shape of your tooth. And I would recommend don't connect these lines, because then it gets it makes your teeth really kind of pronounced and pushed forward with that black outline around each of the teeth. So I'd recommend just giving it the gesture that it's there with that center line, but don't add in too much detail, and then kind of bring in that darker area. Is that helpful, Emily?
Yeah, I'll make it work. That is helpful.
You leave it looks like your little V's that you made, you leave that space clear. You don't fill that in with black also towards the top.
Yes.
Do you leave that as a space, or do you shade that in? The little V.
Right here?
The space between the teeth, the V's.
Oh,
right. Up.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Right there.
I don't typically shade it in. Whenever we get into color, we can add a little more shading. Depending on time, it's almost 4:45, so I'm gonna make sure that we have time for color. We might have to just do basic coloring instead of getting into the shades and shadows. But I wanna make sure everybody is happy with what they've done so far. Again, sometimes it's also a photo. Sometimes different photos are a lot more tricky than other photos. So if you don't like kind of the direction it's going or something, you're more than welcome to try a different photo, different pose, different smile, et cetera, et cetera. Work to the strengths that you like or prefer. Should have put teeth in mine. Darn it. All right. So I'll leave these teeth up here for you, Emily, in case you need a visual reference. Those are important. Yoink. And I'm going to just open up my inking layer here. And I know that someone else referenced glasses, and I think I did mention you just want to make sure that you can ink out the outline of those glasses. Don't need to worry about the lens or the reflections in the lens. We're going to make some really simplistic line work that'll make it look like it's shining, and we're going to add some opacity layers too to make it look like it's lighter than everything else. Okay, so now we're going to talk about ordering of our actual layers. So what I want is I want my inking layer to be on my uppermost layer. So that's going to be at the very top of our list. And then we're going to build out our colors underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that invisible layer, which was our sketch layer. I'm going to hit the little plus sign. So now we have a layer sandwiched between our sketch layer and our ink layer. And this is where we're going to start to drop in basic colors. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm just going to pick a color that I like. So I prefer kind of a almost salmon-y red, not too vibrant, something like that. And with this, I'm going to keep that same brush that I was using, which is that, I think I actually jumped back to a pencil, which was in the basic, and it was the hard round size flow. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the outermost line of my inking, and I'm going to just kind of fill this in here. So I'm going to trace on the inner side of it. You kind of see what I mean by this. We're just going to fill this part in. We're going to trace around, and then I'm going to show you how we can use the paint bucket tool, and we'll fill everything in so you don't have to keep filling it all in by hand. We'll have a nice quick drop of color. 'Tis the color. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or give me a shout like Emily did. You're more than welcome to. Someone is weed whacking outside of my brother's apartment, which is awesome, in case anybody heard that. All right, and what you want to make sure, once we created this shape, you want to make sure that the shape itself is completely enclosed. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that it doesn't have any gaps in between your lines. So I'm looking here. I'm just going to finish this up right now. And so if I were to hide my inking layer, notice I have no gaps all the way through this shape, okay? If you do have a gap, what will happen is your color, once you use the paint bucket tool, it's going to fill your entire canvas and you won't see just that shape. All right, so I'm gonna make my inking layer visible again. I click back into my color layer, and now I'm gonna hit the paint bucket tool, which is right over here. It looks like a literal little paint bucket. And I'm just going to touch inside of our shape. You can notice there's a little bit of line work around where we were actually drawing, but we can fix that back with our brush. So I just selected my brush here. Again, if I'm going too quickly, just give me a shout You're more than welcome to slow down and wait on people. I'm just going to go in here and clean up this line. Need some like elevator music. Here we go. Excellent. Cool. So you should have something like these. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Again, this one was kind of a toss in the air in terms of difficulty. I hope everybody's following along and able to at least carry something they're happy with. Again, all of this takes practice, just like any other thing. So the more you do it, obviously, the better you're going to get in terms of recognizing those shapes and inking and just the overall sketching and drawing and painting. It takes time. So I hope everybody's having fun at least. All right. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab a white and I'm going to grab the highlights of my eye. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this color over to white. I have that same brush selected and I am on that same layer as I was. So my red shape layer, and I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to fill in the whites of my eyes. Nice and easy. Same with this side. There we go. And that'll be pretty much the most we're going to do with pure white. We might adjust some things and add in highlights, but now we're going to talk about a new layer. Again, I'll give some people some time. Again, if I'm going too fast, please tell me. I'm more than happy to slow down a little bit. Just keep an eye on time. All right. So I don't think we're going to get into highlights, but I'm going to show you guys how to add in a little bit more of a darker texture so that we can get our hairlines as well as our eyebrows. And then I'll show you how we can throw in kind of a halftone pattern to make things pop a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to add in another layer. So I just hit that little plus sign and I added my layer in between my color layer, which is this one, and my ink layer. So we're sandwiching. You're going to notice that we're repeating a lot of these processes in terms of just adding layers and moving color, et cetera, et cetera. For this layer, I'm going to go back up into my layer properties in that top right corner. And I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply. I'm more than happy if someone didn't catch that. Layer properties, multiply, and I'm actually going to drop down the opacity of this to around 70%. All right. Cool. And what's really nice with this is I'm going to use that exact same red color that I had before. So if you're using any color, you can go into your color wheel. It should be down here at the bottom under your recent colors. So I'm just going to select that same red. And since I adjusted my layer properties up here for multiply, and then I adjusted my opacity, now when I color on this red, it's referencing the layer that's behind it. So when I color on this, maybe, there we go. It wasn't picking me up. You'll notice that it's going to be slightly darker, and all that's doing is it's creating another red layer that's the exact same color, but it's just multiplying the darkness on top of it. And so we can start to fill in our eyebrows, and then we'll also fill in our hair. So I'm going to come in here, get my mustache. Again, I'm working pretty quickly and loose-handed, so I'm not so concerned with coloring inside the lines like I was in elementary school. All right. I think someone has music playing. If you have music playing, you should just turn it up. All right. So you can kind of start to see what's happening here. So we're creating dimension with the light and dark colors of our monochrome stuff. So I'm using a darker red on top of this, and I got that darker red by creating another layer over here on our right side, and I just made that layer into a multiply layer underneath our blend modes in the layer properties in the top right. Again, we're getting into the weeds of things, and I hope it's not too tough for people to follow along. It's always my concern. I always feel bad. I'm going to adjust my brush size up here just so I can fill this faster. Yay. Q. Excellent. Cool. I'm actually going to start my mouth. So also with this multiply layer, what we can do is we can start to suggest certain shadows. So if we think back to if other people were here for the flower oil painting tutorial that we did, you can start to recognize a light source inside of your image, and then think about how that light source is going to reflect or cast shadows based off of its direction. So if I think of my light source as being up here, it's going to create a shadow right around the base of my nose, as well as right above my eyes. Again, that's going to add just in a little bit more dimension for this. And you can actually probably color in my top lip here too. Yeah. Cool. And same thing up here. Get that shadow of my hair kind of sitting down on my head. There we are. Excellent. Let's erase my light source. Cool. Time. Ooh, we're down to 54. Okay. We're going to add in some quick textures. I'm going to show you guys how we can export this out. So I'm going to add in another layer. I'm actually going to add this layer right above our multiply layer, which was in between. So we have our inking is our very top layer. This is going to be our texture layer. We have our multiply, and then we have our color layer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back up into our brushes. What's really cool with Fresco is they have some really awesome brushes here. So I am going to go into effects. And actually, it might not be effects. Let me see. Comics. Cool. So we're going to go into comics inside of our brushes. And I'm going to select a halftone, which we'll go with halftone 2. And that should work. So now if I draw, you're going to see we have these kind of little dot patterns. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to make this layer soft light. Again, if I'm going too quickly, please let me know. I'm more than happy to slow down. I'm adjusting the size of my brush up so that we can see it a little better. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to, all right, we're going to have to adjust that. So I'm going to change my color here to white also. I'm going very lightly over my face, and actually I'm going to increase the size of my brush so I can keep things relatively the same. There we go. And if you're curious, you can adjust this soft light. Sometimes you'll find something else that maybe looks a little bit better. which I don't see one. So I'm gonna go with soft light, and I'm just gonna drop the opacity down. So it's nice and subtle, but it's still there, and we can see it. All right. And I'm gonna add in one more layer at the very bottom. So right underneath our color layer, I'm gonna go ahead and add in another one. And I'm gonna go down here into our comics brushes again. I'm gonna hit crackle. So this one allows us to create some really nice textures. I'm gonna use that as our background. So I hit crackle, and I'm gonna change this color over to a blue. I know I'm moving quickly. I'm only doing this for the sake of time, just so you guys have an idea of what you can do further on. And feel free to work on this outside whenever we're done here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I am more than happy to talk more about Adobe Fresco with you guys and show you the ins and outs. And I hope that you're having fun with this. All right. And I'll just add a little bit of a darker color just for the sake of making it pop. And you should be left with something a little bit like that. Again, I know that I moved pretty quickly there towards the end, and we are at 3:57. So I am going to go ahead and show you guys how to export. And then we'll have some closing remarks from Nicole, and then we'll be good to go. All right. So up here in the top right corner, there's a little box with an arrow that is aimed upward. So I'm just going to click on that guy. We're going to go to Publish and Export. And then all we have to do is go to Export As, and you can change it to PNG, JPEG. I prefer JPEG. And then you just export it, and it will automatically, you can save it to your actual iPad, and you'll be all good. You can use that, send it to your phone, social media, etc. If you do decide to post it on social media, you can use the hashtag, I believe it's PSU Creates, Penn State Creates, Nicole, maybe? What was our hashtags that we're using?
PSU Creates.
Perfect. So PSU Creates, and then we'll share the work with everybody else. Again, I apologize, that was relatively quick there towards the end. I know we got through a lot. At least, excellent, Dan. That looks fantastic. Awesome.
Let's see it. Dan's. Let's see it. Oh, that's awesome.
Wicked.
Here's mine. I somehow ended up in a cloud of popcorn, but
Wicked.
I'm happy there.
I love it. This makes me so happy. I thought I was moving so quickly, but you guys caught on so well. Look at that. Excellent, Trace.
Cool. Trace, that looks awesome.
So good.
All right.
Let's see it, Erica.
Whoa.
Sorry I didn't get to the glasses, but you guys totally nailed it.
So I took my picture in my sunglasses because I didn't want to deal with eyes. So that was purposeful.
That is a purposeful workaround. It's genius.
I noticed you also did not show your teeth as well. It's like you knew what was coming.
Not
Yeah.
on purpose. That was completely by accident.
Emily,
Oh, that's great. You got the teeth down.
I had to turn them white, otherwise they looked weird.
Still works. Awesome. Well, that's so cool. I'm so happy to see that you guys were able to follow along. I hope you had fun with this one. I know it was a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of a time rush there towards the end. And we could keep on working on these till the cows come home. So I will turn it back over to Nicole, and thank you guys for spending an afternoon with us. I appreciate it a lot.
that was super fun, Tyler. Thank you. And I feel like we might need to do another one of these this summer. Because I want to try this again. But thanks so much, Tyler, for teaching us how to cartoon ourselves. We really, really appreciate it. And join us again next time, everyone, please, for another segment of Penn State Creates. We'll be taking a break next week, but we'll be back on June 10th, Wednesday, June 10th at 3 p.m. The topic will be forthcoming. And everybody enjoy their Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. We had a really good time and can't wait to see everyone's posts on social.
The cows are coming home soon, Ryan. Soon. Excellent.